So here we go. Two icons of the outboard industry. Guess what we got? We got the Johnson 6 horsepower vintage 1980s, complete with refurbished gas tank, and it's because of its metal. Makes for a lot of good rust on the bottom, but you scrape it off, not a big deal. As you can see, it's got the regular standard Johnson jack over here. Johnson Everroot actually. So this happens to be a long shaft motor, and it's very simple. It's got the extension over here. That's how you make a long shaft, a short shaft into a long shaft. You bolt it on, bang, you got 20 inches of length on the shaft. Okay, so this is a regular two-stroke vintage 80s. The mix is about 50 to 1. Basically, I use 70 to 1 using synthetic oil. If you use synthetic oil for the mix, you can get away with a higher ratio. I'm using 70 to 1, some people use 90 to 1, and it makes for a little bit less smoke, and you still got your protection. And in this corner, we got Honda. Of course, Honda. I drive a Honda. A lot of people drive a Honda. We know they're pretty reliable. So this guy over here is a 5 horsepower version. So it's a 4-stroke single cylinder engine. We'll take the cover off in a few minutes. And we've got our trademark, I think it's like a 3-gallon tank from West Marine. It's pretty cute. It's got a little indicator here for how much fuel is in there. And guess what we got over here? This little puppy has a Johnson style connector also. What do you know? Some things that are old are still good. These are two very nice motors. One's the legendary Johnson, lasts forever allegedly. And here's the Honda, single cylinder, noted for reliability, 4-stroke. Now let's see what happens. Okay, let's do a little bit of a walk around here. So, as you can see, these are built basically the same as these Johnsons are. We got the shift lever over there, forward, reverse, and then we got the little latch over here that locks up if you want to lift up the motor. And then we got the little reverse, little lever over here, so when you put it in reverse, it locks the brackets down here, and you go on reverse, nothing happens. These motors are very, very, very precise, typical Japanese. As long as everything's okay, it even has a cute little light over here. The light turns green to make sure you got proper oil pressure when you're running. Isn't that cute? But remember, being Japanese, things run perfectly and reliably as long as everything, the fuel is good, your fuel filter is good, and everything else is in check. That's a high contrast to these guys over here, which would probably run on low octane mud, given the chance without any proper gasoline preparation. Okay, so let's take this cover off here. And you can see this is a real nice little puppy over here. This guy is an older motor, however, it's brand new. If you happen to have a motor like this, just make sure, you see these little pins over here? These are the shear pins. Stock, it came with bronze brass pins. Do not use those. Honda had a problem with those. If you use those and you gas it a little bit high while shifting gears, you're going to shear that pin, and you're going to be in the middle of nowhere with your freaking fishing rod and beer. What are you going to do? I know, drink more beer. But it's no fun trying to paddle back to shore, especially if you've spent an hour getting there. So you just make sure you got stainless steel shear pins along the way. Don't ask me how I know. It's a typical Honda 1-cylinder overhead valve engine. Really, really nice little jewel of an engine. Got some plastic parts in there, but that's not a big deal. It's dead reliable. Here's the, here's the little filter over here. As you can see, like I said before, these Japanese engines are very touchy. Make sure everything is maintained properly, and you'll have incredible reliability. You got your grease there, you got your little flywheel, and you got your engagement here. Typical choke over here, which is almost more like an enriching valve. Flaps your lever open, and your idle screw is actually right over here. That's your idle screw. I suggest, because it's a precise little engine, you don't mess around with it. If you do anything, make sure it's the factory specification. Get the shop manual or go online. You'll get the right numbers, you won't have a problem. Okay, I put this little tab over here so I can just adjust the RPM. Right now, when I got the motor, the RPM was high. It was shearing pins like crazy. I brought it down a little bit, switched over to stainless steel, no problem at all. You get a tachometer that reads these signals. It's basically a piece of sticky foil on there. You get one at Harbor Freight for like $39.99 and your 20% coupon as usual, which all you gearheads know about, I'm sure. Okay, so we'll put the top, actually we'll leave the top off and we'll start her up. Okay, here we go. A perfectly beautiful Honda 5 horsepower, single cylinder, 4-stroke motor, idling beautifully. So what I have below is I usually like to run these things in the bucket because it gives you a real idea of how the shifting affects the RPM. When you got it up in the air with a regular earmuffs or a little connector there, you don't have any water pressure against the propeller. You really don't know how the motor's going to react at low RPM when you shift. And really, you don't want to know that these things cut out while you're in the middle of a maneuver in the marina. So I like to run these things in water. You put a hose there while it pees out over here. The hose will keep the water up to snuff, and you're able to see what it reacts like under load. So, as you can see, it runs really nicely. And of course, you got that really cute, let's see if I can see it here. You got that really cute little LED over here. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's nice and green. It means you got good fuel pressure. The actual oil inlet is right over here, just like a regular lawnmower or power plant or car. So here we go. Right now it's at low idle. You can see, we rev it up a little bit, and it sounds like a thumper because it is. It's a single cylinder engine. Now this is the low RPM. The key to checking if your RPM works good with your motor and if everything's in tune is will it not conk out when you put it in gear. So let's put it in gear. So as you can see, it slowed down a little bit, but it didn't miss a beat. So we can rev it a little bit. No problem at all. It's at low RPM, and it's running like a top, like a Honda should. Like I said, these things are little jewels of an engine as long as you keep the maintenance up. Let's pop it back there. As you can see, the water level's down a little bit. Water level's down a little bit, but the hose is going to be filling it up real fast. Isn't this thing a beauty? One thing, if you got these motors, make sure this little hose over here is the carburetor vent. The carburetor vent is a beautiful little place for little bugs and spiders to build their nests in. If you get a spider web in there and you're going to try and run these things at full throttle, it's going to conk out, it's going to cut out, or it's going to go back to whatever your idle speed is, and you'll be lucky if it doesn't conk out. So just be cognizant of that. It's easy to take a wire or something along and just like snake it out, or just check it every season. That's why they make it see-through. Okay, this is a cute little feature over here. This is a little carbureted drain screw. Carbureted drain screw. At the end of the season, you unscrew it, gas comes out, you run the motor till it's out of gas, you're ready for next year's fishing or whatever the hell you want to do. Okay, so that's the Honda 5 horsepower. Nice little motor, nice little motor. When I put it away dry, I usually just disconnect it here and let it run till it runs out of gas, and nothing's hanging out in the carburetors or gas lines. After this thing shuts down, I also drain it over here and make sure there's no gas in the carburetor as well. Very cool little engine. I like it. Okay, now we got the legend. There's probably no guy out there with a fishing rod and a pot belly and a case of beer who's ever gone fishing without one of these motors around. It's the Johnson 6 horsepower 2-stroke twin from the 80s. So it's about a 30-year 20-30 year difference between this motor and that motor over there. But let's see what kind of features we got. We got the same kind of connector there, right? Same thing. We got the latching features over there. We got nifty little grease fittings over there. Like I said, this is the long shaft version. I particularly repainted and redid this motor. This little section over here is completely brand new off eBay. Bottom end gears, all brand new off eBay. Completely new lower end. This motor was originally used in salt water, so the bottom end was pretty shot. It was never cleaned after use. I put a brand new bottom end on it. So We got the Johnson over here. We got the throttle over here. Most letters are all worn off, but not a big deal. If you cut your teeth on these motors, then you know exactly where the position is supposed to be. We don't have any fancy lights or anything like that. We got a regular stop button. We got the pull, and we got the choke over here. Like I said, same connector that we got here. It's a very good connector. It goes to show you that some things and some features never change. If they work, they work. Oops. Okay, just make sure you got the vents open. Sometimes these screw vents don't work so good. Make sure these vents are in good operating condition, or else you're going to starve the engine. So we got this motor over here. What I did was I adjusted it properly, and I wanted to make sure the vibration and wouldn't get jostled. So I just put a glob of silicone over there for the idle mixture. That's the mixture. Don't want to mess with that too much. I use it around the same temperatures every year, so hopefully it won't be a big deal. And of course, this one comes off as well. Same kind of feature. Goes to show you, if something works, you don't change it. And Johnson did it all. Yeah, nice fiberglass, a little bit of mildew, shroud. Lasts forever as well. So here we go. This is the motor. We got the little 2-stroke carb over there. Very basic. We got the fuel pump there. Very basic, very similar to what we got now. And we got the 2 cylinders here, the 2 plugs. And I put a new plate over here. New reeds, cleaned everything out, cleaned all the passages out and the cylinder walls. It's really easy to work with, like primitive technology. If you do have one of these motors, you got to remember one thing. Just like the Honda, you got to remember about the idle and the pins. This one, you got to make sure that, you see my fingers pointing, that little roller? Okay, that roller engages with the advanced mechanism over here. The screw over here synchronizes that to the lever. So basically you got to have, there's a little bit of a marking on the lever over here. I don't know if you can see it, it's like 2 indents. Make sure that as you roll the throttle, by the time you hit those indents, the left side of the roller is in contact with it. If not, you will have stalling problems when you shift. It's very dangerous, very annoying. But like I said, it's primitive technology, not an issue if you know what you're doing. It's just basic stuff, pretty straightforward. It's amazing how something like this could still be so useful after 20 or 30 years. Okay, let's see how she runs. Okay, as you can see, we got this really nice 2-stroke twin working really smooth on a nice idle mixture over here. It's pretty cool. But will it not conk out when you put it in gear? Let's find out. Good. Okay, that works good. Give it a little gas, what will happen? Conks up. Okay, here we go again. We got a nice idle going on over here. Got the water pump going. It's peeing out nicely. Nice stream, no prostate problems at all. So let's see what happens when we shift it. Put in shift. And we still got a nice idle. See how it goes? All I did was start it again, and it worked out okay. Not an issue at all. Put it back in neutral. Let it fill up a little bit. So as you can see, when it's running good. But man, if you can't get out during your shift or in the marina, you're in bad shape. If you can't get out during a little fishing excursion, a little water hole, not a big issue. That's exactly what these motors are made for. If you use it that way, it's super reliable. I'm sure there's somebody out there who could tune these up so they run perfectly and will never die out, but I haven't come across that yet. Please leave a note if you have any tips on the Johnsons. It's a great motor. Stick with it to fishing. Stick with the Honda if you absolutely have to have it run positively all the time. Okay, so again, we got the Johnson, we got the Honda. These Johnsons are pretty amazing machineries. Even nowadays, you'll probably have less problems finding parts for this than the Honda, which is like a couple of decades newer. These parts are all over the place. It's a modular kind of motor. It shares with the 8 horsepower. It shares with the short shaft. It's a great little motor. These clamps, everything about this motor seems heavy duty, and it's built to last. So if it seems like these things are made to last like 30 or 40 or 50 years, it's because they are. They're built strong, like a freaking anchor with a propeller. You could probably make hamburgers with this thing too, off season. It's got so many different add-ons and different accessories for this thing. Parts you can still get really easy, high availability. Just need a little lube. The only thing is, if you're not a good hand on 2-strokes, you gotta have this thing tuned really nicely so it doesn't let you down in some inopportune moments. The Honda, like that car, doesn't let you down. Keeps on running and running and running and running. Hope this was helpful. Have fun on the water. Life is short. Make sure you make the moments long. Take it easy.